What's going on, guys? PXCam20 back again with a brand new video. We are here at the Autopolis International Raceway in the Toyota 86 GTs, and yes, you can see right there I am starting in second, so I was able to pull in a pretty good qualifier lap for this race as we jump into it. Now, before we get into the race, if you guys haven't yet, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so if you guys really enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video, as it really helps out the channel when you guys leave a like. Anyways, let's jump straight into this race as we are jumping into the lobby now. As you can see, we are surrounded by all types of players: A players, B players, and S players, and so it's gonna probably lead to a very interesting race as we go to the starting lineup here. So again, we're starting in second place with a 2:13.8, trying to get underneath the 2:12s, but it's very difficult on this racetrack as we jump right up into the 5 red lights, and we are a go. So we start off in second, jumping on the line, get a really bad actually a bad start on this race. So we actually jump down to third position now, and we're actually gonna get challenged by fourth. Heading to the first turn, we brake very late as second punts first out. So already the first rammer out, and the leader actually gets punted out. So we are able to move our way into third, but we're just going to try to overtake the guy on the outside heading into turn number 2, and we were able to get the move done. So we get second place heading down the straightaway into turn number 2 as we head right behind the Brazilian. So now it's going to be a catch-up game as we are about a second behind the Brazilian, as he's actually kind of pulling away from us as we're trying to catch up to him now. Jump up into lap number 4 here. And we are now on the back bumper of the Brazilian, so we had to be very patient when catching back up to the Brazilians. We didn't want to overdrive the turns, just hit all our marks, hit all our apexes, and now we're right behind the Brazilian heading to the end of lap number 4 as we come into the final 2 turns. Coming to the long right-hander here, we are still closing up on him as we try to get into the slipstream before we come into the final corner. Heading to the final corner, we are now right behind him directly, and we're going to try to see if we can catch up to him, as the slipstream is very powerful on these cars. You can gain about 0.5 of a second down the straightaway, as you can see. So we are doing that right now. So coming into turn number 1, we are in 5th gear, catching up really close to the Brazilian. Brake right before the orange marker on the outside wall, and he actually brakes very early and are actually late on the apex. So we bump into the back of him, we push him forward, but that kind of loses us the momentum for us, and we actually get overtaken by the Canadian heading into turn number 2. So we brake right after that little strip of concrete and jump up a little more into lap number 5, and now we're trying to catch up to the Canadian and the Brazilian as we are stuck in 3rd place. Coming out of this right-hander here, we're heading to the long right-hander that leads us into the final sector, and we're actually catching up to the Canadian and the Brazilian as they're both fighting side by side heading into this to these 2 right turns right here. We brake from the overtake, and the Canadian actually makes contact with the Brazilians, so now they're beating and banging as we're trying to keep it on the track and not wreck into them. So we're trying to stay right behind them as we head into the final 2 turns. The Canadian's still trying to catch up to the Brazilian, and he covers the inside line as we come into the final corner. Get a quick cut back. We actually make contact with the Canadian as they both get bumped back, and we try to get back into the slipstream heading down the straightaway. We follow the Canadian down the slipstream. So we go to the outside. The Brazilian is covering the inside line as we head into turn number 1. Both of them go into single file, and we actually get a very good run on the outside. We overtake the Canadian on the outside, and we're going to take the Brazilian on the outside of this curve, and we are able to get first. We actually have a really good lead as we try to cover the inside. We actually get tapped by the Brazilian, so he forces us out wide, and we lose first place and another position from the Canadian. As the Brazilian and the Canadian go side by side heading into 2 left-handers. We're trying to stay right behind them and try to make a cutback. As the Brazilian and the Canadian make contact, we get onto the inside of the Brazilian, and we try to make the overtake, cut right in front of him, and we are able to get second place. So now we have to chase down the Canadian as we get into this long left-hander almost towards the end of the race. We have about 2.5 laps to go. As you can see, we are in the middle of lap number 2. So we fast forward here. We're trying to catch up to the Canadian. We're able to make a ton of time heading into this final sector, as the Canadian was really weak on this final sector. This was our best part of the track, so we're trying to catch up to him. He goes very narrow heading into that corner, and we were able to get a really good run coming out of the right-hander as we head into the final few corners. We're coming on the outside. We give him the space there as we try to make a wide entrance as we head into the final corner. Get a really good run. Try to make another wide entrance as we're going to get a very, very good run heading out of this corner. So he goes really, really wide coming towards the exit of the corner. We got put it onto the inside. It's going to turn to the outside. We are able to keep it there. Get right behind him on the slipstream and try to see if we can try to gain some time here on the straightaway before we head into turn number 1. We gain a ton of time as we're going to try to make a move on the inside. Brake very, very late. Actually outbrake ourselves a little bit, and we make contact with the Canadian. And the Brazilian actually makes contact with us, so it's a domino effect there as we all get taken out a little bit. And the Brazilian moves his way into first place, so now we're stuck in second. So basically did not gain a position, but we didn't lose a position, but we did make contact with the Canadian and kind of forced him out wide. So that was a big no-no on us, but we got instant karma by the Brazilian as we got punched out wide too. So it was just a puncherino effect on turn number 1. So brake very, very wide heading into that corner as we jump up into later of lap number 7. We're right behind the Brazilian now. We're actually giving him a little bit of a tap there so we can try to push him out of the way a little bit as we're trying to get towards him on the final sector here. We headed to the final 2 right turns, and the Brazilian goes out very, very wide, so we keep it on the inside, try to get behind him as close as we can. And we are now on his back bumper as we head into the final few corners. That's going to lead us into the last lap. We get right on his back bumper before we hit the last 2 corners. Take a very wide entrance as we head into this corner, and the Brazilian actually gets on the brakes, so we give him a little bit of a tap as we're not going to let go of the throttle now. It's the final lap, so we're going to try to do everything we can to pass him as we get down to the front straightaway. Get right into the slipstream. We're going to try to make a move on the inside to try to overtake him before heading into turn number 1. We get back into the slipstream a little bit, but we keep it on the inside here. Going side by side as we head into turn number 1. Brake very, very late. Brake, keep it on the brakes, and the Brazilian actually bumps us out wide, and he goes into the inside, and he loses first place. So now we're up into first. So now the main objective here is to just hold first place as we're on the final lap here, heading towards the, I guess you call this turn number 2 and turn number 3. Going to turn number 2, we brake very, very early, clip the apex as we're trying to minimize the mistakes, as this is going to be the hardest part of the track to not make a mistake right here. We brake very, very late. We actually overshoot the corner, but also the Brazilian overshoots the corner, as you can see right behind us. Now the American is right behind us, so it's going to be a 1-2 finish for America, but we are trying to get away from him as we do not want him to catch up to us. He's the fastest car on the racetrack right now. As you see, he's actually catching up to us. He's about 0.7 of a second behind us as we head into the hairpin here, trying to cover the inside as we brake as late as we can before we hit the hairpin. Brake very, very late, clip the apex, and you can see right there that he's getting closer to us on the radar. And we're going to try to keep it here on the straightaway, try to hold him off as we head towards the straightaway. That's going to lead us into 2 right-handers. Brake right before the 50-meter board and cover the inside there as he is now on our rear bumper. So we're going to have to try to perform some excellent defending techniques here as we head into the right-hander. Keep it onto the inside. He's actually going onto the outside into this left-hander, and he actually loses a little bit of time as we cut right in front of him. We cover the inside. He's still right behind us on our back bumper, so he gives us a little bit of a tap. We're still trying to cover the inside as we head into this left-hander, into the final few turns. Keep it into the inside again, and we're going to move all the way to the right-hand side to cover the inside as we head into this long right-hand turn. Cover the inside, brake as late as we can. Keep it onto the inside, get back onto the gas. And we're actually going to get a bad exit as we head into here out of the final few corners. It's going to be a drag race down to the line. 2 by 2. Are we going to be able to outpace him? Yes, we do. And we get the win here at Autopolis International. So, very, very awesome race. Went down to the wire for the end. And, yeah, just very happy to win that race. It's the first race that we won in a while. So, awesome win right there. So, we get the victory done for Daily Race C. So, we're going to jump into our second race here that we did earlier as we start off in 8th place. And you can see the Mexicans right ahead of us as we get a very bad start again. Jumping down into 9th place as the American passes us. We try to get into the inside here. Brake as late as we can heading into turn number 1. And this is actually a lot cleaner than the last race as no one gets punted out. We stay in 9th place as we try to get behind the Mexican in the slipstream as we head into turn number 2. Get into the slipstream of the Mexican. We're gonna see if we could try to do anything here as we brake late as we can after that spot of concrete there, or of asphalt. And we try to get into the inside. The car actually gets punted out wide, so he's gonna hold up everybody else as he holds up the Mexican on the outside, hitting. That's gonna turn into the inside right here. We brake as late as we can and try to make a move on the outside. We get the momentum coming out of the corner here. The Mexican and I make a little bit of contact as we try to pass 7th place here. Get onto the inside of 7th place. He actually comes in on us, and we make contact as we head into the left-hander here. We're able to make the position done, and we're able to move from 9th to 7th in the span of 1 sector. So now we set our eyes on 6th place here. So coming into, I believe, lap number 2. Yep, lap number 2. We're heading into the second turn, and we're trying to catch up to 6th place. And 6th place actually gets a little bit loose as we come into the final, not final, but into turn number 3 and 4. We try to make a move on the outside, but see it's not going to work. So we try to get it back to the inside. And we actually get punted out a little bit by the Mexican, or not the Mexican, but by 7th place. And so he pushes us out wide, and we actually lose a position there. So now we're in 8th place, trying to catch up to 7th place as we get back into the slipstream as we jump into the end of lap number 2. 7th and 6th are still fighting with each other as we're trying to catch up to them on the straightaway. Get right behind the slipstream of 7th place. He actually gets a little bit wide as we get into the slipstream of him. Cut it to the outside, and we get a really good run. Gonna overtake him on the straightaway as we get onto the slipstream of 6th place. That's gonna tow us heading into turn number 1. We're starting to get away from 8th place there as we jump right into turn number 1. Brake as late as we can, cover the inside, and we get 7th place as we head off of turn number 1 and going into turn number 2. 6th place actually goes a little bit wide and hits the gravel and slows him down. So we're able to make another overtake as we head into turn number 2. And that's going to move us up into 6th place. So very, very lucky for us that we were able to make 2 positions in the span of 1 corner. Jumping into the end of lap number 3, we are in 6th place as we try to cover the inside. Coming into the final few corners, we actually go very, very wide as we head into the final few corners. We try to cover the inside, but we actually get tapped a little bit from the American, so he forces us a little bit to the inside. And now we're going to go side by side heading into lap number 4 and into the first corner. Side by side to fight over 6th position. We run a personal best lap there as we head into turn number 1. 6th place is actually ahead of us by a lot, so we try to brake as late as we can and try to make a move on the outside, but we back out of that move. Try to make a cutback heading into turn number 2 as 6th place gets a really bad exit. And we are able to get the momentum off of turn number 1, heading into turn number 2, and we get a good straight line speed heading into turn number 2, braking as late as we can, cover the inside. We get the move done, but he's gonna try to make a cutback on us. But we're gonna keep the inside here of these 2 left-handers and try to keep the inside of this right-hand turn here. Brake as late as we can, but not over brake it as we actually kind of do. And he makes a little cutback there, so he makes contact with us. And we're now fighting for 6 heading into this left-hander here. We try to move over to the right hand as much as we can, but not bump him out wide as we cover the inside here. Luckily, he's not able to make a move on the inside, but it's going to be very, very daring to try to cover him heading into the hairpin here. So we're on the outside heading into the hairpin. We're going to try to move it a little bit to the left, but we actually don't. You see him, he's making a move on the inside of the hairpin. We give him the space, make a little bit of contact heading out of the hairpin, and he's able to get 6th from us. So we lose another position coming down this straightaway and into the right-hander. So jumping into the end of lap number 4, we're actually get a little bit wide and actually get pushed a little bit by 7th place. And we're trying to catch up to 6th place here, but we're going to go side by side as we head down the straightaway with 7th place now. And we're going to try to see if we can try to make overtake or at least challenge him on the outside as we head into turn number 1. We get into a slipstream of 6th place, so that's going to pull us along down the straightaway. Brake as late as we can, going side by side heading into turn number 1. He makes a little bit of contact with us. We make a little bit of contact with him as we go into the grass, heading out of turn number 1, heading into turn number 2. We get into a slipstream of 7th place, try to make a cutback, getting into the slipstream again, going to turn number 2, and we lose 7th place as he gets a good run coming off of turn number 1. Is able to make complete the position. So heading to the middle part of lap number 6, and you see 6th and 5th are still fighting with each other as he makes contact with 5th. 5th goes out wide, and we try to capitalize on that, and we are able to do so and move ourselves up into 6th place. So now coming to lap number 7, we're getting challenged by 7th place by the Brazilian. We actually run very, very wide heading into turn number 1. He pushes us out wide a little bit coming out of turn number 1. So we lose 6th position and we get demoted all the way down to 7th. Now, coming to the final lap, we don't make up any more positions and we are finishing this race in 7th place. So not too bad, since I think we did start in 7th, so we didn't gain a position, but we didn't lose a position, unlike the other race. So finishing in 7th for this one. Very entertaining races. I really like the cars on this racetrack. It's really, really fun to do races here. Anyways, if you guys really enjoyed that video, hope you guys subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video as it really helps out the channel as well. And I'll hope to see you guys on the next video. Peace.